The hook. There is a cabin in Norway right now where you can lie in bed, look straight up through a glass ceiling, and watch the northern lights move across the sky while a forest of pine trees stands silent guard just outside your window. No crowds. No light pollution. Just you, the trees, and a sky doing something most people only ever see in photographs. That cabin is real, it is bookable, and it is just one of 15 of the most beautiful forest cabins on the entire planet that we are about to explore together. Some of these are tucked so deep into the woods that you genuinely cannot find them on a normal map. Some look like something out of a fairy tale. And at least one of them is going to make you seriously reconsider what your next vacation should look like. Before we head into the forest, if you love discovering incredible places like this, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe if you are new here, and drop a comment telling me which country you would want to disappear into for a week. Alright, let us get into the woods. Treeheart Cabin, Finland. We are starting in Finnish Lapland, inside the Arctic Circle, where a cabin called Treeheart sits suspended among the pine trees like something dreamed up by a children's book illustrator. The exterior is wrapped almost entirely in glass, which sounds like it should feel exposed, but somehow it feels the exact opposite. Surrounded by snow-laden trees for most of the year, the cabin becomes a quiet glass capsule floating inside a frozen forest. Guests describe waking up and genuinely forgetting they are inside a building at all, because the boundary between indoors and outdoors nearly disappears. And because this is Lapland, the same region famous for reindeer and the northern lights, winter nights here can turn the entire forest ceiling into a slow-moving curtain of green and violet light. It is the kind of place where the cabin itself almost becomes secondary to the show happening just outside the glass. 7th Room Tree Hotel, Sweden. From Finland we cross into Sweden, to a structure that looks less like a cabin and more like a geometric spaceship that crash-landed gently into the canopy. The 7th room at Tree Hotel sits suspended nearly 10 meters above the forest floor, supported almost invisibly so that from certain angles it genuinely appears to be floating between the trees. Architecturally, this is one of the boldest entries on our list, all sharp angles and mirrored surfaces that reflect the forest back at itself, which means the building does something strange and wonderful. It practically disappears into its own surroundings. Inside, large windows frame the forest at every angle, turning every wall into a living, breathing piece of art that changes with the seasons. If Treeheart felt like a quiet, glowing capsule, this one feels like a daring architectural statement that the forest somehow agreed to host. Quebexa Cabin, Costa Rica. Now we are leaving the cold behind entirely and dropping into the lush, humid jungle of Costa Rica, where Quebexa Cabin sits nestled among dense tropical foliage. This is where the story shifts from snow and northern lights to something far more alive and noisy in the best possible way. Howler monkeys, tropical birds, and an entire orchestra of jungle sounds surround this cabin day and night. The architecture leans heavily into natural, locally sourced materials, wood that still smells faintly of the forest it came from, and an open layout that practically begs the outside air to come in. Costa Rica has spent the last several years building a reputation as one of the leading destinations for sustainable jungle architecture, and Quebexa is a perfect example of why. It does not fight the rainforest. It simply makes a small, respectful clearing inside it and lets the forest do the rest. Mirror Cabin, Sweden. Sweden earns a second spot on this list, and for good reason, because the Mirror Cabin takes the disappearing act we saw at Tree Hotel and pushes it even further. The entire exterior is clad in mirrored glass, which means the cabin essentially becomes a reflection of the forest itself, the trees, the sky, the changing light throughout the day, all bouncing back at you from every surface. From a distance, especially in fog or low light, it can be genuinely difficult to tell where the cabin ends and the forest begins. This is not just a clever visual trick either. It is a serious piece of sustainable design thinking, minimizing the visual footprint of human construction inside an untouched landscape. Stand close enough and you will catch your own reflection standing inside a pine forest that, for a brief disorienting second, looks like it has no building in it at all. White Pod, Switzerland. From mirrored glass we move to something that looks almost nothing like a traditional cabin at all. White Pod, perched in the Swiss Alps, consists of geodesic dome-shaped pods scattered across a forested mountainside, each one designed to handle heavy snowfall while staying remarkably cozy inside. These domes blend a kind of futuristic minimalism with deep alpine charm, wood-burning stoves glowing inside while snow piles up against curved white exteriors outside. Switzerland already has a reputation for combining environmental responsibility with serious comfort, and White Pod captures that balance perfectly. You get sweeping views of forested slopes and distant peaks, but you also get the quiet, almost meditative stillness that only a snow-covered forest can provide. It feels less like staying in a hotel and more like being gently let in on one of the mountain's best-kept secrets. Cabin Anna, Norway. And now we arrive at the cabin from our opening hook. Cabin Anna sits in the Norwegian wilderness, and its signature feature is a glass ceiling positioned directly above the bed, designed specifically so guests can watch the northern lights without ever leaving the warmth of their blankets. Norway's forests, combined with its position beneath some of the most active auroral activity on Earth, make this one of the most reliable northern lights viewing spots on this entire list during the winter months. The cabin's design is intentionally minimal everywhere else, letting the surrounding pine forest and that incredible night sky do all the talking. There is something genuinely moving about a piece of architecture built around a single purpose, giving you the best possible seat for one of nature's most spectacular shows, and then quietly getting out of the way. Costa, Brazil. Our journey now takes us into the Brazilian Atlantic forest, one of the most biodiverse rainforest ecosystems remaining on Earth, where Costa rises up among the trees on raised stilts. Built almost entirely from wood, the cabin keeps you elevated above the forest floor, both protecting the delicate ecosystem below and giving you sweeping views across the rainforest canopy. Brazil's Atlantic forest has lost a significant percentage of its original coverage over the past century, which makes architecture like this feel less like a vacation rental and more like a quiet statement about how human structures can exist inside fragile ecosystems without destroying them. From the deck, you genuinely feel suspended inside the forest rather than simply visiting it, watching mist roll through the canopy at dawn in a way that feels almost private, like the forest is showing you something it does not show everyone. Cabanas Las Trancas, Chile. From Brazil we travel south into the temperate forests of Chile, where rustic, beautifully simple cabins sit deep inside dense, mossy woodland near volcanic landscapes. What makes this region so visually striking is the contrast: ancient, moss-draped trees growing in the shadow of volcanic peaks, creating scenery that feels almost prehistoric. These cabins lean into a rustic charm rather than architectural flash, wooden walls, simple lines, and an emphasis on letting the wild Chilean landscape carry the visual weight. After several visually dramatic, design-forward entries on this list, there is something refreshing about a place that simply trusts its surroundings to be beautiful enough on their own, without needing mirrored glass or geodesic domes to compete with it. Big Sur Cabins, United States. Back in North America, the cabins scattered through Big Sur along California's central coast offer something this list has not given you yet: the dramatic meeting point between ancient redwood forest and the rugged Pacific coastline. These cabins are tucked among towering redwoods, some of the tallest living trees on Earth, while the sound of the ocean crashing against cliffs drifts up through the canopy. Big Sur has been treasured by writers, photographers, and travelers for generations precisely because of this collision of two completely different natural worlds existing within walking distance of each other. Staying in one of these cabins means falling asleep to the sound of waves while surrounded by trees that were already centuries old before the cabin around you was ever built. Log Cabins, Algonquin Provincial Park, Canada. Heading north into Canada, Algonquin Provincial Park offers classic log cabins set deep within boreal forest, and this entry brings a kind of pure, unfiltered wilderness energy that some of the more architecturally daring cabins on this list intentionally avoid. Algonquin is genuinely remote, home to wolves, moose, and one of the most extensive canoe route networks in North America. These cabins do not try to dazzle you with glass walls or futuristic shapes. They offer something more elemental: a solid roof, a crackling fire, and direct access to genuinely untouched Canadian wilderness right outside the door. After several entries built around dramatic architecture, Algonquin reminds you that sometimes the most beautiful cabin experience is the simplest one, where the forest itself remains the undisputed main character. Treehouse Lodge, Peru. Our journey now takes us into the Peruvian Amazon, where elevated treehouse-style cabins place guests directly inside the rainforest canopy, connected by suspended walkways strung between massive trees. This is the Amazon at its most immersive. You are not looking at the rainforest from a window, you are physically suspended inside its upper layers, surrounded by one of the most biodiverse environments on the entire planet. The experience of walking across a swaying bridge between trees, with the forest floor far below and an explosion of birdlife around you, is something almost no other destination on this list can replicate. It is equal parts thrilling and humbling, a genuine reminder of just how vast and alive the Amazon canopy really is. Kakslatainen Arctic Resort, Finland. Finland earns a second spot on our list, and this time we are talking about glass igloos rather than a traditional cabin, set inside snow-covered forest near the famous Kakslatainen Resort. These structures use the same glass ceiling concept we saw in Norway, purpose-built for watching the aurora borealis from total comfort, but here they are scattered through a snowy pine forest that feels genuinely otherworldly after dark. Finland has spent years refining this exact experience, and by 2026 it remains one of the most reliable and well-organized destinations on Earth specifically for combining forest scenery with serious aurora viewing infrastructure, meaning your odds of seeing something spectacular here are better than almost anywhere else on this entire list. Pemberton Valley Lodge Cabins, Canada. Returning to Canada but heading west this time, Pemberton Valley in British Columbia offers cabins surrounded by dense, fragrant forest with the towering peaks of the Coast Mountains rising directly behind them. This region sits near Whistler, but Pemberton itself feels noticeably quieter and more rural, giving these cabins a genuine sense of seclusion despite being relatively accessible. The combination here is simple but powerful: thick coastal forest in the foreground, dramatic snow-capped mountains in the background, and a quiet valley in between that makes the whole scene feel like a postcard that somehow forgot to flatten itself into two dimensions. Kolarbin Ecolodge, Sweden. And finally, we return to Sweden one last time for an entry that is almost the complete opposite of everything else on this list. Kolarbin Ecolodge offers primitive earthen huts hidden deep in dense Swedish forest, with no electricity at all. This is intentional, and it is the entire point. These huts are built from natural materials, partially earth-covered, blending almost completely into the forest floor itself. Guests here are not seeking glass ceilings or mirrored walls. They are seeking total disconnection, candlelight, open fires, and a forest that, without any artificial light competing with it, reveals itself in a way that modern travel rarely allows anymore. After 14 entries built around increasingly clever architecture, Kolarbin closes our list by stripping everything back to the absolute basics, and somehow, that simplicity might be the most beautiful thing we have shown you all video. What these 15 cabins have in common. Look back across everything we just traveled through: glass capsules in Finland, mirrored walls in Sweden, stilted rainforest platforms in Brazil, primitive earthen huts with no electricity at all, and a pattern starts to emerge that has nothing to do with style or country or budget. Every single one of these cabins succeeds for the same fundamental reason. They do not compete with the forest around them. They either disappear into it, like the mirrored cabin and the earthen huts, or they frame it so deliberately that the forest becomes the actual main attraction, like the glass ceilings built specifically for watching the sky. In 2026, with so much travel content built around flashy architecture trying to outshine its surroundings, there is something genuinely refreshing about 15 places around the world that figured out the opposite approach works better: design quietly, and let nature do the rest of the talking. From the Arctic glow of Finland to the primitive stillness of a Swedish forest hut with no electricity at all, these 15 cabins prove that the most beautiful places to stay on Earth are rarely the loudest ones. They are the ones built with genuine respect for the forests surrounding them. If this journey gave you a new place to add to your travel list, or just a few minutes of escape into some of the most beautiful corners of this planet, let me know in the comments which cabin you would book first. Hit subscribe if you want more deep dives into incredible places like these, and I will see you in the next adventure.